Eating is one of the primary functions in life that you'll definitely want to learn how to eat without adaptation if possible. For myself, it was very embarrassing to have a cuff on and then be bending somebody's silverware to eat with. We're going to do just a few simple things here. One banana, peeling a banana is regularly just hold it against your chest and between the two fingers, and then pull up, and you basically can peel your banana fairly easily that way. If you do have trouble, I mean, you can use your teeth to peel a banana. So, I mean, I'm not too delicate about it. If you want to be a fashion show, then that's one thing. But sandwiches are always good. And picking them up, I just use one finger to kind of get it underneath there. When it comes to using a fork, we just happen to have a plastic one today. But you can pick them up several ways. One is to put your hand on it over here and then slide it between your fingers if you need to. Or you can drag it to the edge of the table and pick it up between your fingers. I mean, there are a number of ways. Whatever works, works. But the basic idea between a fork is you want the front end of it to be heavier than the back end, and it will balance in your hand just by its own friction against your upper finger and your lower finger. To pick up things, you can stick it in easily enough, or you can, if you have to jab it in, you can use your other hand to jab it in, and that works equally as well. But the main thing is when you want to balance this thing, you do not have to hold on to it, as you can see. It's just a balancing act. One little trick that you may want to consider if you're a quadriplegic is carrying a knife with you. What I do is keep one knife clipped on the bottom of my chair. There's a little clip that allows it to clip on the bottom of the chair. And this is called an easy out knife. It's made by Gerber if you need it, or there are several of them. Spinal makes one and Buck makes one. But to pull the blade out, which is usually the hardest thing with any jackknife, this is just a matter of pinching it between your finger and thumb against your chest, pulling in with your biceps, and then opening it up. If that's too much, you can actually open the same knife with your mouth if you need to, just with your lips. It's that easy. So, and if you had to, you could just put it in your mouth and open it with your lips. Fairly easy to, but very convenient to have around. There's all kinds of plastic wrappers and things that you need to get through during the day. Another little trick, if you want, is instead of clipping it underneath your chair, you can simply put it in a pocket if you have one on a Roho cushion, or just sew yourself one on there. Out of sight and very handy to get to it. As far as using a knife, again, a very simple matter. Picking it up, you can slide it to the edge of the table. You can use two hands or one. But basically, I would say put it between two fingers, because this will give you more down pressure as far as pushing on it. And if you need more pressure than that, you can use your other hand and simply push down with it. If you're cutting something like steak, you may need to use two hands, one to hold the object, so you can just pin it with your other hand and then draw the knife across it to cut. And so you get the idea. As far as opening cans of soda, or even holding on to them for that matter, let's talk about holding on first. The simple matter of tenodesis works good with a fairly wet can as this one is. If you're having some trouble with that and holding on with slipping out, you can put one finger underneath it. This really gives you a good grasp on it. Also, when you're picking things up, don't try to pick them straight up. Turn them on their side so that they're just like the fork. They're twisting in your hand, And that rotational moment helps it to gain a lot of traction and friction on your fingers. So this is much better than this, which can slip right out. Opening a pop top is fairly simple. What I do is put one fingernail underneath it, and you're basically stretching your finger out to do that. So I just put it underneath there, push up, and you're done. When I got hurt, my friends put a 6-pack of beer in front of me inside the bag and told me anything I could get out, I could have to drink, and that's when I learned to do pop tops. As far as doing screw-on caps, what I do is use the same tenodesis methods for holding onto it, but then pull it against your chest. And the way I taught myself to do this was to pinch it against your chest with your biceps again, and then you're rotating your elbow out, and that unscrews the thing. So you're basically unscrewing it that way.
Sometimes, if something is really stuck on, you can use 2 hands and use your biceps to really press on it, and then turn it. So you can unscrew it that way too, or screw it on if you really want to put it on there. There. Now it's on.
Drinking hot objects out of a cup is a little bit delicate. You do not want to grab a cup like this, especially if you don't have a lot of sensory feeling in your sensory perception in your hands. So what I generally do is any cup, you can hook your fingers in it, and the cup is held upright and away from you. So the hot part is not against your skin. So you're not burning yourself, and then you take a drink. It does go against your lower hand, but you're only here for a second or two before you put it back. So there are any number of cups. You can find one that's comfortable for you, but generally you're out visiting somebody and somebody just hands you a cup of coffee or a glass, and you do want to be able to use anything that comes along. So it's a good practice with many different cups. Dealing with pens, again, you can slip it to the edge of and pick it up, which is very easy. It just becomes a natural motion. Pulling the cap off is a matter of pushing it against your chest again with both hands, and then pulling it out. I generally stick the cap back on the end to keep it longer. And I don't think my penmanship is any worse than it was before I got hurt. It was terrible then. It's still terrible now. And you can either use one hand to write, or if you need more pressure, you can put 2 hands on it, and then go a little bit darker. And anyway, that works. If I'm using a pencil or a ballpoint pen, I don't have any hand grasps to hold on to it, so if I put pressure on it, it slides out. So when I use a pencil or a ballpoint pen, I generally just use 2 hands to do this, to write, and it works fine. When it comes time for picking up small flat objects, such as coins, again, it's awful hard to get enough tenodesis to pick this flat coin up. What I generally do is bring it to the edge of the table, and then you've got it. Larger coins, no problems. If that's not a possibility, you can always use 2 fingers to flip it up and get underneath it. But it looks much more natural if you can just drag it to the edge of the table and pick it up. Let's say you drop your coin. It's very easy to pick it up off of carpeting. When you put pressure on it, on the outside of it, it automatically lifts it up, and you've got it. Okay? On a harder surface, it's a little more difficult. One other little trick, when picking up small objects, you may not be able to get a good purchase on them like that. I mean, if it's really tiny, these you can do it. With my right hand, my right hand is looser than my left hand. I have less tightness in it, and picking them up is a bit close to impossible. I can do it between two fingers, like this, if I need to. But one good little trick is just put a little dab of spittle on your finger, and you can stick it right to your finger. So there's no need to monkey around. And it's on there. So you may not want to pass out pills that way, but when you're taking them yourself, it works okay.
Picking up heavier objects like this oak 4x3, tenodesis is pretty much out of the question. The only real way to pick it up is to balance it. And if you just turn it on its side, then you can hold it fairly well by doing that. If it has notches in it, you can stick a finger under that notch and it will work fairly well. Or you can go back to the old method of putting one finger underneath it. So there are a number of ways to handle heavy objects, but by and large, balancing it is the really only good way to really handle with it. Eventually you're going to drop things on the floor. One of the tougher things to pick up is a book. So picking up a book is relatively easy if you get it right. I put my arm on the back of the chair, and then I generally just slide the book up and stand it upright. And again, you can put a little slab between your middle finger or so, stick it between the pages, and then you're using this to balance the book. And it's really stuck in there fairly good. If you can see how that is working. I won't go into the full mechanics of it, but try it. It's simple. When you pick up something like a phone book, you'll be glad you learned how to do that one.